Helen Waters never believed in fate until the night a dying man grabbed her wrist in the Seoul emergency room and whispered 3 words that changed everything. "They'll kill you." She didn't know who he was. She didn't know why blood covered his expensive suit. And she definitely didn't know that the most dangerous man in Korea was watching from the shadows, his dark eyes locked on her like she was already his. Yoon Joo-sang had built an empire on fear. He trusted no one. Loved nothing. Until he saw a black nurse with fire in her eyes refuse to let his enemy die on her table. One look, and he knew. She was his. The problem? His world would destroy her. Her light would condemn him. But Joo-sang didn't care about the rules. Didn't care about the consequences. When he wanted something, he took it. And he wanted Helen Waters. What she didn't know was that saving that dying man had just painted a target on her back. And the only person who could protect her was the same man who would burn Seoul to the ground if anyone dared to touch what belonged to him. Some love stories are sweet. This one is dangerous. This one is forbidden. This one will make you believe that the darkest hearts can beat for the brightest souls. Before I tell you how Helen went from saving lives to being hunted, before I show you the moment Joo-sang claimed her as his, before you see just how far a man will go for the woman who wasn't supposed to exist in his world, I need you to do something important. Hit that subscribe button right now. This is African Korean Romance, where we bring you the most intense love stories that cross every boundary. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what the weather is like where you are. Now, let me take you back to the night Helen Waters' life changed forever. The emergency room of Gangnam Medical Center smelled like antiseptic and desperation. Helen had worked there for 6 months, long enough to know that Friday nights brought the worst cases. Drunk drivers. Gang violence. Overdoses. She'd seen it all. Or so she thought. The automatic doors exploded open. 4 men in black suits carried a 5th man between them, his expensive shirt soaked red. Blood dripped onto the white floor in a trail behind them. Helen's training kicked in immediately. She grabbed a gurney and rushed forward. "Get him on the table. Now." The men hesitated, their hands reaching inside their jackets. Helen's eyes flashed. "I don't care who you are or what happened. If you want him to live, you'll do what I say." One of the men, tall with a scar across his jaw, studied her for a moment. Then he nodded. They lifted their bleeding companion onto the gurney. Helen's hands moved with practiced efficiency, cutting away the ruined shirt, finding the source of the bleeding. Gunshot wound. Upper abdomen. Possible liver damage. She looked up sharply. Someone called the police. The scarred man stepped forward. "No police." Helen's jaw tightened. "A gunshot wound requires a police report. That's the law." The man's hand moved to his waist. Helen didn't flinch. "You can threaten me, or you can let me save his life. Choose." For a long moment, silence filled the emergency bay. Then a voice cut through the tension like a blade. "Let her work." Helen turned toward the voice. A man stood in the doorway. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than her monthly salary. His face was sharp, beautiful in a dangerous way, with eyes so dark they looked black. But it was the way he carried himself that made Helen's breath catch. Like a predator. Like someone who had never been told no in his entire life. The scarred man immediately bowed his head. Joo-sang-nim. The man in the doorway, Joo-sang, walked forward slowly. His eyes never left Helen's face. "Save him." Helen lifted her chin. "I plan to. But I need you all to get out of my way." Joo-sang's lips curved slightly. Not a smile. Something darker. He gestured to his men. "Out." They filed out immediately, leaving only Helen, the dying man, and Joo-sang standing by the door like a shadow she couldn't shake. Helen worked fast. The bullet had missed major organs, but had caused significant bleeding. She called for blood, for surgical tools, for the attending doctor. But her hands never stopped moving. "Pressure here. Clamp there." The man's pulse was thready but present. He was young, maybe 30. Handsome despite the pallor of blood loss. "Who are you?" Helen whispered as she worked. The man's eyes fluttered open. Weak. Glassy. "Run," he breathed. "Joo-sang will kill anyone who knows." Helen's hands froze for just a second. Then the man's hand shot up and grabbed her wrist with surprising strength. They'll kill you too. You saved me. That makes you a witness. Helen's heart pounded, but she didn't pull away. Then I'll deal with that when you're not dying on my table. The man's grip loosened. His eyes slid to the doorway where Ju-sang stood watching. Brother, the man whispered. I'm sorry. Then his eyes closed. Helen's head snapped up. Brother? She looked at Ju-sang, whose expression hadn't changed. But something flickered in those dark eyes. Something that might have been pain if he were human. The attending doctor rushed in, taking over the case. Helen stepped back, peeling off her bloody gloves. Her hands were shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. She turned to leave, but Ju-sang was suddenly there, blocking her path. He was taller than she'd realized. Broader. And the way he looked at her made something in her stomach flip. Your name, he said quietly. It wasn't a question. Helen. Helen Waters. He repeated it slowly, like he was tasting each syllable. Helen Waters. You just saved my brother's life. Helen met his eyes directly. She learned early that showing fear invited attack. I was doing my job. That's all. Ju-sang stepped closer. Too close. She could smell his cologne, expensive and subtle. See the way his jaw tightened. No, that's not all. My men told you no police. You defied them. Helen's chin lifted. Because your brother would have died if I'd wasted time arguing. Ju-sang's eyes darkened. You're either very brave or very stupid. Helen surprised herself by almost smiling. My mama always said I was both. For a moment, something passed between them. Recognition maybe. Or challenge. Then Ju-sang reached into his jacket. Helen tensed, but he only pulled out a business card. Black. Embossed with gold lettering in Korean and English. If anyone asks about tonight, you say nothing. If anyone threatens you, you call that number. Helen looked at the card. It had no company name. Just a phone number. And if I don't? Ju-sang leaned down slightly, his breath warm against her ear. Then you'll find out why people fear my name. He stepped back, and suddenly Helen could breathe again. But before he could walk away, she did something that surprised even herself. She grabbed his wrist. Wait. Ju-sang froze. No one touched him without permission. Ever. His men had been shot for less. But when he looked down at Helen's small hand on his wrist, he didn't feel anger. He felt heat. Tell me one thing, Helen said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Is your brother a good man? Ju-sang's eyes met hers. No. Helen nodded slowly. Are you? Ju-sang's laugh was low and without humor. Not even close. Helen released his wrist. Then why should I trust you to protect me? Ju-sang studied her for a long moment. Because whether you trust me or not, you're mine now. You saved what belongs to me. That makes you my responsibility. Helen's eyes flashed. I don't belong to anyone. Ju-sang's smile was dangerous. You do now. You just don't know it yet. He walked away, his men falling into formation around him like sharks circling prey. Helen stood there, his business card in her hand, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break her ribs. What she didn't know is that Ju-sang had already made a decision. She was under his protection now. And he protected what was his with a violence that had built his empire. But Helen didn't know that someone else had been watching tonight. Someone who saw her save Ju-sang's brother and immediately understood how to hurt the man who couldn't be hurt. Helen walked to the locker room on shaking legs. The other nurses gave her strange looks. They'd seen the men in black suits. Seen the way the entire emergency department had gone quiet when they arrived. One of the older nurses, Minji, grabbed Helen's arm. Are you okay? What happened? Helen pulled off her scrub cap, her natural curls spilling free. Just another Friday night. Minji's eyes narrowed. Those men. I've seen them before. They work for Yoon Ju-sang. Helen's hands stilled. Who? Minji looked around nervously before lowering her voice. You don't know? Yoon Ju-sang runs half of Seoul's underground. Drugs, weapons, protection. The police can't touch him. He's untouchable. Helen's stomach dropped. And the man I just saved? Minji's face went pale. That was his brother, Yoon Tae-Hyun. He runs the other half. The brothers control everything together. Helen, you need to be careful. These aren't people you want to be involved with. Helen changed out of her scrubs slowly, Minji's words echoing in her head. She'd come to Korea to escape her past, to build a new life where no one knew her story. And now she'd just walked straight into a different kind of danger. She pulled on her jacket and grabbed her bag. The November night was cold, the streets wet from earlier rain. She started the long walk to her small apartment in Itaewon, too tired and too broke for a taxi. She was 3 blocks from the hospital when she felt it. The prickling at the back of her neck. The sense of being watched. Helen had learned to trust that instinct growing up in Lagos. She glanced in a shop window, using the reflection to check behind her. A black sedan crawled along the curb, keeping pace with her walking. Helen's heart rate kicked up. She turned down a side street, walking faster. The car followed. Helen's hand dove into her bag, fingers closing around her phone. But before she could dial, 3 men stepped out of the shadows ahead of her, blocking her path. She spun around. 2 more behind her. She was trapped. The middle man smiled. It wasn't friendly. Helen Waters? Helen backed against the wall. Who's asking? The man pulled out a gun, casually pointing it at her stomach. Someone who wants to send Yoon Ju-sang a message. And you're going to deliver it. Helen's mind raced. She could scream, but this neighborhood was industrial. Empty at night. She could run, but they had guns. She could fight, but there were 5 of them. So she did the only thing she could think of. She pulled out the black business card and held it up like a shield. Call him. Tell him you have me. The man's smile widened. Oh, we will. After we've had our fun. He raised the gun higher, aiming at her face. Helen closed her eyes and prayed. God, if you're listening, I'm not ready to die tonight. Then she heard it. The screech of tires. Shouts. The sound of impact, flesh hitting concrete. Helen's eyes flew open. The 5 men were on the ground, groaning. And Yoon Ju-sang stood in the middle of them like an avenging angel dressed in black. His knuckles were already bloody. His suit jacket was gone, his white shirt splattered red. And his eyes were pure fury. He looked at each man on the ground like he was deciding which one to kill first. Then his gaze found Helen, pressed against the wall, shaking. His expression shifted immediately. The rage smoothed into something focused. Lethal. He walked toward her, stepping over bodies like they were garbage. Are you hurt? Helen shook her head, not trusting her voice. Ju-sang's eyes scanned her anyway, cataloging every detail, making sure she was telling the truth. Then he pulled off his ruined dress shirt and wrapped it around her shoulders. It was warm from his body heat and smelled like him. Come, he said quietly. His car, a sleek black Mercedes, was parked with its door open. Helen let him guide her into the back seat. Her legs felt like water. Ju-sang barked orders in Korean to his men who had appeared from nowhere. They grabbed the groaning attackers and dragged them toward a van. Helen didn't want to think about where they were going. Ju-sang slid into the back seat beside her. His driver pulled away smoothly. Where are you taking me? Helen finally found her voice. Home. Yours or mine? Helen looked at him sharply. Mine. Ju-sang's jaw tightened. Not safe. They found you once. Mine. It's not a discussion. Helen's fear suddenly transformed into anger. She'd spent her whole life being told what to do by men who thought they owned her. I don't know you. I'm not going to your house. Ju-sang turned to face her fully. His dark eyes bore into hers. You saved my brother. That painted a target on your back. My enemies now see you as leverage against me. If I let you go home, you'll be dead by morning. Is that what you want? Helen's hands clenched in her lap. No. Then trust me. Helen laughed, bitter and sharp. Trust you? I don't even know you. You're a criminal. Ju-sang didn't deny it. Yes, but I'm the criminal who just saved your life. And I'm the only thing standing between you and a very painful death. So you can fight me, or you can let me protect you. Choose. The car pulled up to a building that looked like something out of a magazine. Glass and steel and money. Ju-sang's penthouse occupied the top 3 floors. Helen stepped out of the car on shaking legs. She had a choice. Run and probably die. Or trust the most dangerous man in Seoul to keep her alive? God help her, she chose trust. If your heart is racing right now, hit that like button. And drop a comment, are you team Helen should run or team Helen should trust Jusang? Now, back to the story, because what happens next will change everything. The penthouse was beautiful in a cold, minimalist way. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Seoul's glittering skyline. Everything was black, white, or chrome. There wasn't a single personal item anywhere. It looked like a hotel, not a home. Jusang gestured to a hallway. Guest room. Second door. Bathroom attached. My housekeeper will bring you clothes. Helen stood in the massive living room, still wrapped in his blood-stained shirt. And then what? Then you sleep. Tomorrow we figure out who sent those men and why. Helen's exhaustion hit her all at once. The adrenaline crash made her sway on her feet. Jusang was there instantly, his hand on her elbow, steadying her. When did you last eat? Helen couldn't remember. This morning maybe? Jusang's jaw tightened. Sit. He guided her to the kitchen island, then opened his refrigerator. It was nearly empty except for bottled water and containers of what looked like restaurant takeout. He pulled out several, heating them efficiently. Helen watched him move around the kitchen. He'd rolled up his sleeves, revealing forearms corded with muscle and marked with scars. Some looked like burns. Others like blade wounds. He caught her staring. Like what you see. Helen didn't look away. I'm trying to figure out who you really are. Jusang set a plate in front of her. Bulgogi, rice, banchan. I'm exactly who everyone says I am. A monster who runs the city's shadows. Helen picked up chopsticks. Her grandmother had taught her to use them years ago. Monsters don't save people. Jusang's smile was sharp. I didn't save you out of kindness. I saved you because you belong to me now. Helen's hand paused halfway to her mouth. I don't belong to anyone. Jusang leaned against the counter, his dark eyes intense. You saved my brother's life. In my world, that creates a debt. And I protect my debts. Helen set down her chopsticks carefully. I don't want your protection. Too bad. You have it anyway. Whether you like it or not, Helen Waters, you're mine now. And I take care of what's mine. The possessiveness in his voice should have terrified her. Instead, it sent heat curling through her stomach. She didn't understand it. Didn't want to examine it too closely. She finished eating in silence while Jusang watched her like she was a puzzle he needed to solve. Finally, he showed her to the guest room. It was bigger than her entire apartment. The bed looked like a cloud. Lock the door, he said from the doorway. Don't open it for anyone but me. Helen turned to face him. And if I want to leave? Then you'll have to go through me. His eyes held hers. And I promise, you won't make it past the front door. It should have sounded like a threat. Instead, it sounded like a vow. Helen closed the door between them and locked it with shaking hands. She showered in the marble bathroom, using expensive soaps that smelled like sandalwood. She found clothes laid out on the bed, soft pajamas that were too big but clean. She climbed into bed and closed her eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. Every time she drifted off, she saw those men. Saw the gun pointed at her face. Saw Jusang's bloody knuckles. She sat up, breathing hard. A soft knock sounded. You're awake. Jusang's voice came through the door. Helen didn't answer, but she heard him sigh. I can hear your breathing change. I know you're scared. You're safe here. I promise. Helen found herself walking to the door. She unlocked it but didn't open it. Jusang pushed it open slowly. He'd changed into black sweatpants and a t-shirt. His hair was damp from a shower. He looked almost human. Almost. Can't sleep? Helen shook her head. Too much adrenaline. Jusang walked past her to the window. Come here. Helen hesitated, then joined him. Seoul spread out below them, lights twinkling like stars. It's beautiful, she whispered. Jusang looked at her, not the city. Yes, it is. Helen turned and found him staring at her with an intensity that stole her breath. She should step back. Should put distance between them. Instead, she asked the question burning in her chest. Why do you keep saying I'm yours? Jusang's hand came up, his fingers brushing a curl away from her face. His touch was surprisingly gentle. Because the moment I saw you fight for my brother's life, the moment you stood up to my men without fear, the moment you looked me in the eye and didn't flinch, something in me recognized something in you. Helen's heart pounded. That's not an answer. Jusang stepped closer. His hand cupped her jaw, tilting her face up. I've spent my whole life building walls, trusting no one, loving nothing. And then you walked into my world, all fire and courage and light. He paused, his thumb brushing across her cheek. And I realized I've been waiting for you without even knowing it. Helen's breath caught. You don't even know me. I know enough. I know you're brave. I know you're kind. I know you see people, not their circumstances. His voice dropped lower. And I know that I will burn this entire city to ash before I let anyone hurt you. It was possessive. It was obsessive. It was everything Helen should run from. But God help her, when Yoon Ju-sang looked at her like she was the only thing in his dark world worth protecting, Helen felt something inside her chest crack open. Something she'd kept locked away since the day she fled Nigeria and everything she'd lost there. She reached up and placed her hand over his. I'm not someone you can own. Ju-sang's smile was small and real. No, you're someone I choose to protect. There's a difference. But what Helen didn't know was that while she stood in Ju-sang's penthouse, falling for a man she should fear, someone was already planning their next move. Someone who had watched Ju-sang's men rescue her. Someone who now knew exactly how to destroy the man who ruled Seoul's underworld. All they had to do was take away the one thing he'd claimed as his. Helen woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the smell of coffee. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then it all came rushing back. The attack. Ju-sang's rescue. His words. I will burn this entire city to ash before I let anyone hurt you. She sat up, her heart racing for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. She found Ju-sang in the kitchen, dressed in a crisp black suit, reading something on his tablet. He looked up when she entered, and something in his expression softened. You slept. Helen nodded, suddenly self-conscious in the oversized pajamas. 3 hours. Better than nothing. He poured her coffee without asking, adding cream and sugar in exactly the right amounts. How did you know? Know what? How I take my coffee. Ju-sang's smile was slight but genuine. I pay attention. Helen's phone buzzed. 17 missed calls from the hospital. Texts from Minji asking if she was alive. She needed to call in, explain her absence, but what could she say? Sorry, I'm hiding in a Mafia boss's penthouse because people tried to kill me. Ju-sang's phone rang. He answered in rapid Korean, his expression darkening with each word. When he hung up, the tenderness was gone, replaced by cold fury. They found your apartment. Burned it. Everything you own is gone. Helen's coffee cup slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor. Ju-sang was there instantly, pulling her away from the broken glass, his hands checking her for cuts. I'm okay, she whispered, but she wasn't. Her nursing books. Her photos from home. Her mother's Bible. All gone. Ju-sang's jaw clenched. They're sending a message. Trying to flush you out. It won't work. Helen looked up at him. I can't stay here forever. I have a job. A life. Not anymore. You're under my protection now. That means you stay where I can keep you safe. Helen pulled away from him. You can't just lock me up. Ju-sang's eyes flashed. Watch me. Helen's temper, usually controlled, ignited. I didn't survive everything I've survived to become a prisoner. Ju-sang stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. You want to know what happens if you leave? They kill you. Slowly. Painfully. And they make sure I know about it while it's happening. That's what they do to people I care about. Helen's breath caught. You barely know me. How can you care? Pause for just a second, because this is the moment that changes everything. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell, because this is where Helen and Ju-sang's story takes a turn no one sees coming. Ju-sang's hand cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. I've known you for 12 hours. In that time, you've shown more courage, more fire, more life than anyone I've met in 34 years. You think time matters? I knew the moment I saw you that you were going to ruin me. Helen's voice shook. I don't want to ruin you. His thumb traced her cheekbone. Too late. You already have. Before Helen could respond, his phone rang again. This time, when Jusang answered, his entire body went rigid. He spoke in clipped Korean, then hung up. His eyes met Helen's, and she saw something there she hadn't seen before. Fear. What is it? My brother. He's awake. And he's asking for you. 20 minutes later, they arrived at a private hospital across the city. Not Gangnam Medical Center where Helen worked, but a facility that catered to people who needed discretion. Jusang's hand stayed on Helen's lower back as they walked through hallways that emptied at their approach. Tae-Hyun was sitting up in bed, pale but alive. When he saw Helen, his eyes widened. You came. Helen approached cautiously. How are you feeling? Like I got shot. He tried to smile. But alive, thanks to you. Jusang stood at the window, watching the street below like he expected an attack at any moment. Tae-Hyun noticed. Brother, relax. We're safe here. Jusang's voice was cold. No one is safe until I find out who ordered the hit on you and the attack on her. Tae-Hyun's expression sobered. I know who ordered it. The room went silent. Jusang turned slowly. Who? Tae-Hyun looked at Helen, then back at his brother. Park Min-suk. He's making a move for control. He knows the only way to hurt you is through people you care about. He shot me to draw you out. And when he saw her save me, he realized he had a better target. Jusang's hands clenched into fists. Min-suk is a dead man. Tae-Hyun shook his head. He's fortified. Half the old guard is with him. If you go after him directly, it'll be a war. Jusang's smile was terrifying. Then it's war. Helen's medical training kicked in, checking Tae-Hyun's vitals to give herself something to do while the brothers discussed violence like other people discussed weather. But Tae-Hyun caught her hand. You should leave Seoul. Go somewhere safe. This isn't your fight. Helen met his eyes. Your brother doesn't seem to think that's an option. Tae-Hyun glanced at Jusang. No, he wouldn't. Once my brother decides something belongs to him, he doesn't let go. Helen's cheeks heated. I don't belong to anyone. Tae-Hyun's smile was sad. Tell him that. See how far it gets you. Jusang's phone rang for the third time that morning. When he looked at the screen, his expression turned to stone. It's him. Min-suk. He answered, putting it on speaker. Yoon Jusang. The voice was smooth, educated, and poisonous. I trust you received my message? Jusang's voice was deadly calm. If you're referring to the 5 men I left broken in an alley, yes. I got your message. Here's mine. Touch what's mine again, and I'll kill everyone you've ever cared about. Min-suk laughed. So protective. I'm touched. Tell me, how is your little nurse? The pretty black girl with the kind eyes? I do hope she's well. Helen's blood turned to ice. Jusang's eyes found hers across the room, and in them, she saw murder. She's under my protection. That should be enough to keep you away if you value your life. Min-suk's voice turned cold. Your protection means nothing. Your time is over, Jusang. The city is mine now. And to prove it, I'm going to take everything you care about. Starting with her. The line went dead. Jusang moved so fast Helen barely saw him. He grabbed his keys, barking orders in Korean to the guards outside. We're leaving. Now. Where? Somewhere he can't find you. Jusang's hand closed around her wrist, gentle but unbreakable. Helen, I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Helen looked at this man who terrified everyone else, but looked at her like she was something precious. Something worth protecting. Something worth dying for. Against every instinct that told her to run, Helen nodded. Yes. They drove for 3 hours, leaving Seoul behind. Jusang's men followed in 2 cars, armed and alert. He took her to a house in the mountains, isolated and beautiful. It belonged to him, he explained. No one knew about it. Not his men. Not his brother. Only him. And now her. Inside was warm, rustic, completely different from the cold penthouse. Wood beams. Stone fireplace. Books on shelves. This is where you come when you want to be human, Helen said softly. Jusang stood by the window, watching the forest. This is where I come when I want to remember what I'm fighting for. Helen walked to him. And what are you fighting for? He turned, and the look in his eyes made her breath stop. You. I'm fighting for you. Helen shook her head. You barely know me. Then tell me. Jusang's voice was rough. Tell me everything. Tell me why you came to Korea. Tell me what you're running from. Tell me why your eyes look sad even when you smile. Helen's walls, built so carefully over so many years, cracked. She found herself talking, telling him about her family in Lagos, about her father who died when she was 12, about her mother who worked 3 jobs to send her to nursing school, about the man she'd almost married who turned violent when she tried to leave, about how she'd fled to Korea with nothing but her nursing license and a prayer that she could build a new life where no one knew her story. Jusang listened to every word, his dark eyes never leaving her face. When she finished, he stepped close and pulled her into his arms. Helen stiffened, then slowly relaxed against his chest. He was warm and solid and smelled like safety. I'm sorry. His voice rumbled through her. For everything that hurt you. For everything that scared you. For every person who made you feel like you had to run. Helen's hands clutched his shirt. Why do you care? Because Jusang tilted her face up, his thumb brushing away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. You saved my brother when you could have walked away. You stood up to armed men without fear. You looked at me, knowing what I am, and you didn't flinch. You're the bravest person I've ever met. And brave women deserve to be protected, not hunted. If you're still watching, it means this story has you. Subscribe to African Korean Romance. We drop stories like this that will consume you. Hit that button and keep watching, because what happens next will break your heart and put it back together. Helen's hands came up to frame his face. This is insane. We met yesterday. I should be terrified of you. You should be. Jusang's voice was honest. I've done terrible things. I'll do worse to protect you. But Helen, I need you to know something. Whatever happens, whatever you see, whatever you learn about me, one thing is true. You're mine. And I protect what's mine with everything I am. Helen knew she should pull away. Should maintain distance. Should remember that this man was dangerous. But when Jusang looked at her like she was air and he was drowning, Helen stopped fighting. She rose on her toes and kissed him. It was soft at first. Tentative. Testing. Then Jusang's control shattered. His arms banded around her, pulling her flush against him. He kissed her like a man starving. Like she was salvation. Like he'd burn the world if it meant he could keep her. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jusang rested his forehead against hers. You're going to destroy me. Helen's laugh was shaky. I'm just a nurse. You're everything. His hands framed her face. You're light in my darkness. You're the reason I'll walk away from this life. You're the only good thing I've ever wanted to keep. Helen's eyes widened. Walk away? Jusang nodded slowly. My brother can have it all. The territory. The power. I don't care anymore. I just want you. Safe. Happy. Mine. But what Jusang didn't know was that Min-suk had already found them. Had tracked Jusang's car through the city cameras. Had followed them to the mountains. And was, at that very moment, surrounding the house with 30 armed men. The attack came at midnight. Helen woke to the sound of breaking glass. Jusang was already moving, gun in hand, pushing her toward a hidden door in the bedroom wall. Inside. Now. There's a tunnel. It leads to the forest. Run and don't look back. Helen grabbed his arm. I'm not leaving you. You have to. Jusang's eyes were desperate. Helen, please. If they get you, I'll give them anything. Everything. You're my weakness. I need to know you're safe. Helen's hands shook. Promise me you'll come back. Jusang kissed her hard and fast. I promise. Now go. Helen slipped into the tunnel as gunfire erupted downstairs. She ran through darkness, tears streaming down her face, praying with every step that Jusang would survive. She emerged into the forest, gasping, disoriented. Behind her, the house was lit up with muzzle flashes. She heard shouts. Breaking wood. More gunfire. Then silence. Terrible silence. Helen stood frozen, torn between running to safety and running back. Then she saw him. Jusang, staggering out of the house, blood on his shirt. He was alone. Helen ran toward him without thinking. He caught her, nearly falling from the impact. "You're alive." "Barely." His voice was rough. "They're all dead. Every single one of Min-suk's men. But Helen, this won't stop. He'll keep coming." "I know." Helen's hands pressed against his bleeding side. "We need to get you to a hospital." Ju-sang shook his head. "No hospital. You're going to patch me up. Like you did my brother." Helen's training warred with her fear. "I need supplies." "The house. There's a medical kit in the bathroom." They stumbled back inside, stepping over bodies Helen tried not to look at. In the bathroom, she found a fully stocked trauma kit. Of course he has this. She worked on him with shaking hands, cleaning the wound. It was a graze. Deep but not fatal. "Lucky." Ju-sang watched her work. "You're good at this." "I'm a trauma nurse. This is what I do. Even when the patient is a criminal. Especially then." Helen's eyes met his. "Everyone deserves to be saved." Ju-sang's hand caught hers. "Even me?" Helen's throat tightened. "Especially you." She finished bandaging him, then collapsed beside him on the bathroom floor, both of them covered in blood that was his, not hers. "What do we do now?" Ju-sang pulled her against his chest. "Now I end this. Tomorrow morning, I'm meeting Min-suk. Face to face. One of us won't walk away." Helen pulled back. "You can't. If you kill him, you'll never be free. This life will never let you go." Ju-sang's jaw set. If he dies, his organization falls apart. The threat ends. "And if you die?" Helen's voice broke. "What happens to me then?" Ju-sang's expression softened. "I won't die. I have too much to live for now." He stood, pulling her up with him. "Come. There's something I need to show you." He led her to study, opened a safe, and pulled out a passport. Korean. With her photo. Helen's eyes widened. "How?" "I had it made the day after I met you." He handed it to her. "If something happens to me, there's money in an account under this name. Enough to disappear. Start over anywhere in the world." Helen stared at the passport. "You did this for me? In one day?" Ju-sang's hands framed her face. "I knew from the moment I saw you that you were going to change my life. I just didn't know how much." "Helen, if I don't come back tomorrow, promise me you'll run. Promise me you'll use this and disappear. Live the life you deserve." Helen's tears fell freely now. "I don't want a life without you in it." "Then I'll make sure I come back." He kissed her softly. "Because a life with you is worth fighting for." The next morning, Ju-sang dressed in a black suit, strapped weapons to his body with practiced efficiency, and kissed Helen like it might be the last time. "Stay here. My brother will come for you if I don't return." Helen grabbed his lapels. "Don't go. Let me come with you." "Absolutely not." Ju-sang's voice was firm. "You're the one good thing in my life. I won't let you anywhere near this." Helen's hands tightened. "Then don't do this. Walk away. Leave with me now. We can disappear together." Ju-sang's smile was sad. "And spend the rest of our lives running? Looking over our shoulders? Wondering when Min-suk would find us? No. I end this today. For you. So we can have a future." He pulled her hands from his jacket, kissed her knuckles. "Wait for me. I'll come back. I promise." Then he walked out, and Helen sank to the floor, praying harder than she'd ever prayed in her life. 3 hours passed like 3 years. Helen paced, prayed, checked her phone obsessively even though she had no one to call. Then the door opened. Helen spun around, hope and fear warring in her chest. Ju-sang stood in the doorway. Alive. Whole. Covered in blood that wasn't his. "It's done." His voice was flat. "Min-suk is dead. His organization is scattered. The threat is over." Helen ran to him, throwing her arms around his neck. He caught her, burying his face in her hair. "I kept my promise. I came back." But when Helen pulled back to look at his face, she saw something in his eyes that hadn't been there before. Emptiness. "Ju-sang, what happened?" "I did what I had to do." His voice was hollow. "I became the monster everyone believes I am. I killed him. Killed his lieutenants. Made sure everyone knew what happens when you threaten what's mine." Helen's hands cupped his face. "You did it to protect me. That doesn't make you a monster. Yes. Jusang's eyes closed. It does. You should run from me. Leave while you still can. Because I'm not a good man, Helen. I never will be. Helen's voice was steady. I never asked you to be good. I asked you to be mine. Jusang's eyes opened, something breaking in them. And you're mine. His voice was rough. From the moment I saw you, you were mine. Helen pulled his head down, kissing him with everything she had. When they broke apart, she whispered against his lips. Then let's be each other's. Forever. No more running. No more hiding. Just us. Jusang's arms tightened around her. Just us. 3 months later, the penthouse had changed. There were plants now. Photos. Helen's nursing books on the shelves next to his business ledgers. The guest room had become her closet. She slept in his bed every night, wrapped in his arms like she was something precious. Jusang had kept his word. He'd stepped away from the violent parts of his organization, leaving his brother to manage the underground while he focused on the legitimate businesses. Helen had returned to work at the hospital, though now she had a security detail that made her coworkers nervous. They hadn't made their relationship public, but anyone with eyes could see the way Jusang looked at her. Like she was air and water and everything he needed to survive. The old guard whispered about it. Jusang had gone soft. Gotten weak. Fallen for a woman. They were right. He had. And he didn't care. One evening, Helen came home from a double shift to find Jusang in the kitchen, cooking. He'd learned how to make Nigerian food, studied recipes from YouTube, called her mother on the phone to ask for tips. It was adorable and slightly terrifying. What's the occasion? Helen dropped her bag. Do I need an occasion to cook for the woman I love? Jusang turned, and Helen's breath caught. He'd said he cared. Said she was his. But he'd never said love. Jusang saw her expression and smiled. Yes, love. Is that so hard to believe? Helen walked to him slowly. You've never said it before. Because I wanted to be sure. Jusang set down his spoon, turning to face her fully. I wanted to know that what I felt wasn't just possessiveness or obsession or the thrill of having something beautiful in my dark world. And what is it? Helen's voice shook. Jusang took her hands. It's love. Real, inconvenient, life-changing love. You make me want to be better. Make me believe I can be better. You looked at a monster and saw a man. How could I not love you for that? Helen's eyes filled with tears. I love you too. Even though you're bossy and overprotective and slightly terrifying. Especially because of those things. Jusang laughed, pulling her close. Good. Because I'm not letting you go. Ever. That night, after dinner, after making love slowly and tenderly, Jusang pulled Helen onto the balcony. Souls spread out below them, alive and glittering. I have something for you. He handed her a small box. Helen opened it to find a key. What's this? The house in the mountains. I'm signing it over to you. It's yours. Your safe place. Somewhere that's just ours. Helen's hands shook. Jusang, this is too much. It's not enough. His voice was serious. You saved my life in every way a person can be saved. A house is nothing compared to that. But there's one more thing. He pulled another box from his pocket. Smaller. Velvet. Helen's heart stopped. Jusang knelt on the balcony, under the stars, and opened it. A ring. Simple. Beautiful. Perfect. Helen Waters, you walked into my life when I'd given up on everything good. You saw past the monster, past the man. You made me believe I deserved happiness. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life protecting you, loving you, being yours? Helen couldn't speak through her tears. So she nodded. Yes. Yes. 1,000 times yes. Jusang slid the ring onto her finger, then stood and kissed her like she was oxygen. Like she was home. Like she was everything. And high above Seoul, a broken mafia boss and a brave nurse proved that even the darkest hearts could beat for the brightest souls. And that's Helen and Jusang's story. A black nurse who refused to be conquered and a Korean mafia boss who found his salvation in her hands. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button. Drop a comment telling me your favorite moment. And subscribe to African Korean Romance for more stories that will absolutely wreck you in the best way. Thank you for being here. From wherever you are in this beautiful world, I'm sending you love. Until the next story, remember, the best love stories are the ones that shouldn't be possible.